Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine. Welcome to day 9 of Qur'an Journaling for Surah Kahf. So today we're going to be going over Ayat number 9, even though I had originally intended to do Ayat 9 and 10. I'm showing you my Ibn Kathir Tafsir book, which is coming in really handy for today's verse. And I also have my Qur'an notebook, which I really love. I hadn't intended to use this one as much as I am, and I am so glad that I have it. So I hope that you'll check it out, because I know that drawing everything for my illustrations and for my Qur'an journaling might not be the right thing for most people, even though I really love it. I think being able to take notes on these ayahs is really important, and that notebook works perfectly. I also have my word-for-word Qur'an, and I really love this Qur'an because it is very clear. It has the Tajweed, and it has the word-for-word, which I don't have in any other Qur'ans, and so I really appreciate that for my journey in understanding the Qur'an better and learning the different words, not just the meaning of the verse. So I'm going to set this up. I'm actually going to do things a little bit differently this time. I had intended to write the Arabic in my Qur'an journal, but I ended up not for a couple of reasons that I will share as we move into that part of the session. I'm first trying to decide how I'm going to do this one, and I know I want a really large cave, and so I'm just, penciling with my finger like how I want everything to look. And then at this point, I'm going to work on the Tafsir, and I'm using my notebook to write all of my notes down. So I have used the Tafsir book, but I'm also using an online video resource, and you can find the links to all of the resources that I'm using on the blog post that accompanies this video, and you can find that link in the description box below. And you can also find the playlist that I'm watching to help accompany the Tafsir that I have. That link is also in the description box below. So I have listened to that tafsir, and I'm also listening as I'm taking notes in this Qur'an notebook. And that way I have the content that I want to include in my journal. So the issue that I'm having is that once I start writing and I've got my reflections and I'm adding the tafsir and the meaning of the ayah, I'm finding that I don't have enough space to write down all of my thoughts, neither in the Qur'an notebook, because I'm already nearly at the end of the page and I still have 3 or 4 different ayahs to continue to write reflections upon. So I'm going to show you a little trick in the next session of how you can add more space to this Qur'an notebook. But then I need more space in my actual illustrated journal, and so in order to have more space, I've actually taken out writing the Qur'an verse in Arabic with the word for word. I'm going to have a separate journal for myself to work on memorizing the words themselves as well as the ayah itself and write the Arabic, just so that I have more space in this journal to write my notes. So now that I have prepared for this lesson by listening to the tafsir and reading the tafsir, I'm going to begin drawing a cave. And I was looking for a very specific image, or in my mind I had a very specific image. And just as a reminder, the illustrations are memory tools for myself. In no way do they depict anything from the past. In some occasions I tried to write things that would have been historically mentioned, but they are memory tools for myself as a reminder that the illustrations are my own ideas. They're not representative of the tafsir, other than them being a memory tool for myself. So I went online to look for an image of a cave because drawing doesn't come naturally to me. I usually copy a lot of what I draw, and if it's not something that I've copied, it's something that's a very easy motif, like trees and mountains. Those are pretty simple. I do have my full back sticky post-its that on occasion I use to write additional notes, and I had just occurred to me to write something down for this ayah, so I quickly jotted it down so I wouldn't forget, and then put it aside so that I could add it into my reflections later. But when I'm drawing, if I'm drawing something that's simple, like a tree or a mountain, and I've drawn that before, then I can just draw that without any hesitation. Even just a hill with a mountain or a cave opening shouldn't seem like such a difficult thing, but I did look it up. And as a tip for those of you who are drawing is not your thing, you're not skilled at it, you're not talented at it, you haven't practiced it, let me just tell you that I, for the most part, feel like I'm drawing like very flat and like a very youthful child who's just exploring drawing for the first time, even though in the end it looks great, but the whole process is quite challenging for me, to be honest. So I want to give you some tips if you want to explore this. The first thing is that if you are copying, I feel that almost anybody can achieve some level of success because you don't have to imagine those images on your own. I have a pretty poor imagination when it comes to thinking about what I want to draw and how it's going to look and where, like, for instance, the shadows are going to be or what color it should be or the size or, the perspective of it. Like, I don't do that very well. So when I'm going to copy an illustration, I'm going to copy it in the format or in the medium, the art medium that I'm using. So if I'm going to be doing a watercolor, for instance, I'm going to search for an image that's in watercolor. For this, I'm doing a drawing. So when I searched online for cave, I literally just searched for drawing of cave opening, and a number of cave openings came up. And this is pretty much, for the most part, what was the illustration that I found online. And so then I did add some changes to it. I sort of combined two images because I wanted more of a rock formation rather than just, arches. So I made some changes, and as the illustration will progress, I come back in and I'll add a little more shading, or I'll add more gray tones, or I'll add more foliage around the cave opening. Just because it's so gray and dark, I wanted just a little bit of greenery. So as I'm doing this illustration, so sometimes I'll do the writing portion. I feel like I've done the writing portion first versus the illustration, but I think I'm going to go in a different direction moving forward, of having the writing kind of go around the illustration and have the writing without so much background color so that the writing's a little bit easier to read. So when doing the illustration for the cave and reminding myself of this ayah. So the ayah is, do you think that the people of the cave and the inscription were a wonder among our signs? And this really is regarding this miracle, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you think that the people of the cave is a wondrous sign? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying there are even more wondrous signs. There's In the Tafsir that I listened to online, it talks about the character and the conduct of the Prophet ﷺ as being a greater sign. The Qur'an is a greater sign. And in the Tafsir book, Ibn Kathir, that I read, that one went over the miracle of the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, and the sun and the moon and the heavenly bodies, all of these things being even greater signs than the story of the people of the cave. But nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell us the story of the people of the cave in this surah. And so when I was drawing the cave, I realized I wanted to also add the alternation of night and day. And I did this sort of with the sun being on one side and the moon being on the other, and trying to illustrate the passing of time. And then when I was done and I was reviewing the way that the people of the cave, this is a little bit later on in the surah, where the sun was on one side of the cave, and it rose on one side and it set on the other side, in order to not have the people of the cave be exposed to the elements and perish, but still be exposed to the warmth and some aspects of the sun, so that they also would not perish. And so I believe it said that the sun rose on the right side of the cave and set on the left side of the cave, and so the opening was north facing, so that they would still get some parts of the sun but not direct sunlight, is what it sounds like. And also there is a dog that's at the entrance of the cave, and I did not draw a dog, and I'm not really inspired to draw people and animals, but there is a dog at the entrance of the cave that I did not draw. So this is a look at the illustration. I really like the way that it turned out. I like that it has multiple aspects of this illustration that represent the ayah and other sources and meanings about this passage and the tafsir. Okay, so I hope that you are enjoying this series on Surah Kahf and enjoying the Qur'an journaling that I'm doing. I do hope that you are following along, and if you are, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your work. You can find all of the resources that I am using on the blog post that accompanies this video. That link is down in the description box below. There's more information on the blog post as well, because I've included some of my own reflections in the blog post, so I hope that you'll check those out. And if you'd like to see how we are doing our Qur'an journaling on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.